want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Madmen of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we indeed are the Madmen of Masculinity.
Yes, indeed. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
For you, Shawty, for you. We have
It's
these
all
real
about you.
conversations for
All
you.
about you.
You know what I'm saying? If you're watching us live on stream, we're recording this bad boy for this week's broadcast over the air on 1220 AM KLDC in the Mile High City and on the interwebs everywhere. Shout out Crawford Broadcasting. What's up?
How we doing?
You know what I'm saying? That's how we do. That's how we do our thing. You know, we got the squad around here. We got some folks next door. We got Corner Cafe. We got a collab coming up with that.
Yes.
You know, we got John Rush down the hall doing his thing. You know, Rush the Reason. He's a beast around these streets. You know what I'm saying?
He runs the
show. Colorado, man.
Definitely
He's doing
runs the
his
show.
thing. So, yeah, man. And, I'm looking right down, looking at my phone because I'm hitting share.
Well, we seem to be having some technical difficulties. We're only on YouTube right now.
Well, you know why I'm hitting share?
Because you care. Well, you might. Is it actually playing on your side?
Nope.
See, that's what I'm telling you. We have technical difficulties.
But I wasn't going to give away the secret.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, man, we've been in this series talking about divorce that started like a month ago. And the very first one, we realized we didn't get to anything we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So that turned into the second one. And then the second one turned into the third one. And the third one, is this the fourth? This is the fourth one.
This would be the fourth one. Yeah, the third one we talked to the ladies. So this is number 4.
And then we got one more coming up next week. Next week, we got a in-studio guest.
We got a professional expert.
That's right. You know, professional. I don't know if he's professional from experience. I'm a 2-time offender myself, but this guy happens to have a coagulation. Oh, wait a minute. That's not a word. Or is it?
That's not the right word.
That's not the right word. I went to public school, man.
You don't want to coagulate with other dudes.
He's got a coalition. That's what
coalition.
Coalition.
Okay,
Hey, man.
Coagulation's like blood clots.
Hey, man, I went to public school, man. Hey, the word of the day is acquiesce.
We are acquiescing.
If you can use the word acquiesce today, a man somewhere will get his wings. Every time you use the word acquiesce today, for the next week, another man will get his wings. Acquiesce. I don't even know what it means. It means to get or to have or something.
Acquiesce means to like give in or to accept or to say yes to. So like when somebody asks you something, you acquiesce to their request.
All right.
So
we got to find a way to use that today so a man can get his wings.
Okay.
So let's talk about divorce, man.
I think I just did.
No, man, we got to use it like in the context.
Okay, we'll do that.
We got to find a way to. Now, what does it mean again? Like to give in?
Basically, it means like to accept. Like,
okay.
Like if somebody asks you, like, give me that drink, you're like, I acquiesce to your request. Here's the drink.
I got you.
Something to that effect.
These are the profound things that we need to solve around here. This is the quality broadcasting entertainment you get on the Madmen of Masculinity. We're dudes, man. We got to keep stuff simple. You know what I'm saying?
A vocabulary lesson for today is.
You know what I'm saying? We like Sesame Street around here for men. We Sesame Street. One man, 2 man. What else? What else are you guys on Sesame Street? They had the
they had Bert and Ernie and the Big Bird, Beaker. Yeah, I like Beaker. And the chef. Chef was my favorite.
The chef.
Sweet chef.
Yep. That was fun.
Love that guy.
2 old men up in the balcony.
Oh yeah. What were their names? The crotchety old men.
2 old men up in the balcony.
That's all I know.
Remember Mr. Snuffleupagus?
Oh yeah.
Nobody could ever see Mr. Snuffleupagus
except for Big Bird.
Except for Big Bird. I don't know, man. Was Big Bird high? Big Bird was kind of weird, man. Big Bird, Sesame Street might have been like on Colfax in Colorado. I don't know, man. Colfax and Sesame Street, y'all. You had a dude living in a trash can. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that might have been it. Anyhow, so back to the topic at hand.
Yep. So hopefully you are watching us on YouTube. We're apparently Facebook or Meta or whatever has updated their terms and conditions. I don't know what they did, but now we're not going straight to Facebook, so we're gonna have to figure that out. But welcome, because now we're finally, yay! Round of applause, getting to the topic we wanted to talk about 4 weeks ago, but it is the actual detrimental effects of divorce on men.
Yeah.
And there are so many detrimental effects, and a lot of it we can bring back and blame it on men because we bought into the good old suck it up and be a man and don't cry and all those things and do it alone. And that is not very healthy, especially when you're going through a major life crisis like divorce.
Yeah, I right out of the gate, right off the rip, I'm gonna talk to fellas, ladies, whoever you are listening. If you married and things are going rough, I highly suggest you spend every dollar you got. I suggest you like sell some stuff. I suggest that you would even consider going into debt to help fix your relationship. The last thing you want to do is go through divorce. I'm telling you, it ain't fun. You're gonna be broke anyway.
Yeah.
You're gonna have less stuff anyway. So why not, go for broke just trying to save it, as opposed to going for broke after the fact. So I'm telling you, and guess what? The grass ain't greener out in these streets. Don't think you're just gonna be single and you're just gonna go find somebody else and there's millions of people online dating and I can go. You don't want none of this. You don't want none of this smoke out here. So just stay with what you got. And like I said, everything you can do to stay married, I mean, you need to do. And yeah, absolutely. Guys, since we are the Mad Men of Masculinity, guys do suffer tremendously through that whole process.
Yeah, and there's so many aspects. Because for the guys who live the longest are usually married. Now, granted, yeah, there's people always joke, well, women live longer than men, especially in marriage and stuff like that. But for a man to have that longevity and quality of life, he needs to have like the family, the purpose, somebody to provide and for, and somebody to live for. And when that gets ripped away, now this man has to redefine his whole existence away from the family, the kids. And a lot of times, because of how we've been trained and taught, we end up completely alone. And if we're lucky, we have a dog. If we don't have a dog, then it's just us in the apartment with, probably a lot of alcohol, a lot of internet distractions. We'll use distractions and just wallowing in our sorrows and not actively seeking help and not getting out there, because whether it's actively said, whether it's, just intended or implied, most men are like, well, nobody's going to listen to me anyway. Nobody cares. So I'm just going to sit here and deal with this because I've been told to suck it up my whole life. And what that leads to is usually addiction, depression, and then self-canceling a lot of times is what happens. And that's one of the reasons that men are 4 times more likely to commit and to leave the world that way.
Yeah, when you have the family on the cul-de-sac and you're doing you're the team coach, and when you got that whole life and all that kind of stuff, you go from on the lawn, you got your house, your car. I told you about the dude in my neighborhood that's driving a bright blue Ferrari. Every time I see him, I'm like, yeah, she got the house, he got the car. Because in his mind, more people going to see the car than the house, and maybe he can get somebody else if he got a bright blue Ferrari. But yeah, from a dude perspective, when you go from that, then all of a sudden, you're sitting alone in your empty place, and it probably is not decorated, and all of a sudden you sitting on milk crates, and you got a couch up on bricks that you found in a dumpster, or somebody moving wanted to get rid of some stuff, or whatever it is. When you sit around and look at your life, it's really easy and really common to just default to whatever the thing is. And sometimes you go looking for love in all the wrong places. You can get caught up out in these streets in some not healthy ways. And yeah, I mean, from a mental perspective, from a physical perspective, you don't eat as well. Your habits get bad. And absolutely, for a lot of guys, addiction is right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, and the top 3 things or 4 things you need to be a healthy man and nowadays is, mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. And pretty much all 4 of those get a bad whack or, become decline very detrimentally after divorce, because we don't have that same routine. We don't have the same people around us. So everything falls apart, and you basically have to build up from the ground up a whole new routine, a healthy routine that doesn't include all the outside influences from the family and the children and everything else. And so all you have is basically the job, maybe the dog if you're lucky, and whatever apartment you're sleeping on milk crates. It's not a good situation to be in, and that's why we talk so much about have a plan. Most guys get blindsided because the lady's already left the relationship 12 months before she leaves the house or even lets you know. So have a plan so that even if you don't think it's ever going to happen, have some sort of plan, some sort of like, well, if just in case, just like life insurance. We never want to use it, but we have to have it. Have a plan and know what you're going to do, who you're going to call, where you're going to go, how you're going to get support. Have some sort of plan, and at least in the back of your mind, because you never know what's going to happen. Just so when it does happen, you're not completely caught off guard.
Shout out to our golfing partner yesterday, Corky. You know, she somehow, luckily or unluckily, got to play golf with us.
It's all your fault.
And
you're sleeping in, can't get up on time.
And you know, she talked about her being married for 30 years. And
just like, I mean, come on, like
that's
really,
tremendous.
like, nowadays.
And so, of course, you know, us being who we are, we leaned in. What's the secret? You know, what's the secret sauce? And she flat out said that, you know, that there was always one of them that wanted it. There was always one of them that was in and that didn't give up on it. And that was the important part. And sometimes it wasn't both of them, but if nothing else, there was at least one of them that wanted to keep it. And so she said it wasn't easy, but that was this year. And I thought that was pretty profound. But I think so many guys, you know, you have that stability and you end up acquiescing that to, I don't know, I'll try to use the word.
Giving it up.
Yeah, you end up giving that up for, you know, for what you might think is the other side of the rainbow. And I'm telling you, it's not. And so all of these things, you know, are just, I'm telling you, it ain't for the weak.
Well, we even talked about it last episode when we were talking to the ladies, like what you need to know about after divorce and why you should really, if you're thinking about going that way, spend as much money and time as you can attempting to fix it and bring it back, because you are invested with this family, you're invested with these kids, you're invested with this person. And just because it's rough right now doesn't mean you're going to find something better. And most likely, because you've already been down that road, you have the miles and the luggage and everything else, it's probably not going to be better. We talked to a lot of people in the singles realm in the middle age right now that are all struggling with finding somebody or finding somebody to even commit to them or even date seriously for that matter. So don't think that just because you have the opportunity to date or do something else that is going to be better.
Yeah, you got to redefine what better is what it comes down to. You're going to get to that crossroad where now. And just like I said, however many weeks ago, I believe, you know, to that guy, it's going to be okay. Now, okay does not mean your life is going to look like it did before. You have to have a new normal. You know, it's like when you go through anything tragic, when you go through any kind of, for lack of a better word, when you go through any kind of death, and a divorce is the death of a marriage. When you go through a death of a relationship, and when you go through that, there's always going to be something that's different. You got to define what your new normal is. And so, your new normal is not going to be like it was before you got married. Your new normal is not going to be like it was when you were married in terms of your resources, in terms of all those things. And so, and speaking of resources,
it's time to up our resources and have a break.
Yeah, we'll be back. Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High and on the interwebs everywhere.
So should we do the list, like go down through like the health risks and things, or
we can
just break it down like, hey guys, this is what you get to look forward to. So don't think it's all parties and 20 somethings.
We can hit each one of these, man. Definitely like the kid one. But yeah, we can hit all these, or however many we can go and get to. They in there taking pictures. They have a photo shoot in there.
Of what?
Each other, ussies.
Ussies. Well, I apologize, everybody. Like, I'm glad you're on YouTube watching this after the fact, because Facebook is not working for us right now. So we'll have to figure that out, and we'll just post the link after the fact so you can watch us and love us like you normally do. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, because without your likes and subscribes and sharings, we'd be talking to ourselves.
Yeah. And we back.
We are back.
We back like mullets. You know, mullets are coming back.
No, they're not.
I
refuse.
I'm telling you, man, I've seen them.
What happened on my watch? I'm gonna walk around with a flamethrower and burn me some mullets.
Hey, you can be in denial all you want. I've seen them.
It's just not happening. I'm sorry.
I'm with you.
I left the South, man. I don't need no more mullets in my life.
I hear you. And speaking of what we don't want no more, we don't want no more divorces.
No, we don't.
I know I don't. I'm done. I've met my quota. I'm done, dude. I've contributed to the legal system.
Overqualified.
I'm definitely, man. I've been to the puppet show. I've seen the strings. I'm done, man.
No, sometimes it is better to stick it out with somebody that you put some time in with. Now, granted, we understand and we'll make the caveat. There are extenuating circumstances, so sometimes she couldn't hold her crazy in, and you're like, okay, now I need to bounce. But just know there are repercussions for that. So we understand that there are extenuating circumstances, so it's not for everybody. However, if you're just one of the regular Joes out there and it's just getting rough and you're not willing to stick it out and you think the grass is going to be greener for you guys, realize there are significant health risks, and this is not something you think about, to getting divorced. Not only are you going to be on your own, lonely, depressed, have a lack of purpose, lack of drive, but I mean, hypertension, stress, cardiovascular disease, heart disease, all these things increase because, I mean, you're pumping cortisol for months, years. I mean, you're basically living off of adrenaline and stress hormones for I don't know how long, and then you have no outlet because probably you're not talking to anybody. You're using alcohol or drugs or something to kill the pain or numb out. So, I mean, there are high health risks that comes along. I'm sure even Kirk can talk about some of the stuff he went through. I mean, I remember numbing out just for breakups. I couldn't even imagine divorce where I'm giving up the house and the kids and the cars and everything else.
Yeah, dude, and I done been through. I mean, I done been down a whole lot of them roads, man. At the end of my second one, man, I was sleeping in the back of my car, and there was that one night, man, where I had the dark night of the soul, and I wouldn't be here, and man, if it wasn't from divine intervention, in my opinion, my experience. So I've been in that dark place, man, and I'm telling you, it can look so like there's just no hope. It can just look hopeless, and there's loneliness, there's isolation, there's the stigma. You get the stigma from your friends, your community, your family, and most of the time, I'm saying most of the time, 51 out of 100, in my experience, and then as well as, anecdotally talking to other people, in 51 out of 100 times, the guy is not going around telling the story. Therefore, he ends up being the bad guy.
Yeah.
And everybody starts looking at him. I remember, man, at the end of my first one, I mean, the church that we was going to, people's kids was looking at me funny. I'm like, what the? I mean, and there's still people who knew me back then that still look at me funny. Like, I have no idea what they heard, but I mean, they're like grown friends, man. There's still some people, they still give me the Heisman when I walk up. And so a lot of times you're not the one telling the story, and that means you become the bad guy of the story. And so it can be lonely. I say all that to say it can be lonely, man. And you're right in terms of living off of cortisol, man. And cortisol is a stress hormone. It's fight or flight chemically. And when you live like that, it's going to be detrimental to your health in all of those ways that you mentioned. And I've been on blood pressure meds for I don't know how long by now, man. I done had heart issues. I done, had depression. I had all kinds. So all that stuff is very real from my experience.
Yeah, and I mean, and for you guys listening to that point, do you need to have advocates? You need to advocate for yourself. You don't want to let her or your ex or soon to be ex take over the narrative and then just go, bash your name all over town. You need to advocate for yourself. You need to have a group of guys, hopefully, that will be in your corner so that you can talk to them about this, because you're going to get depressed, you're going to get down, you're going to get sad. But if you don't talk it out, if you don't have somebody to discuss it with and to release some of that energy and that pressure, it's just going to build, and then it's going to come out sideways or you're going to explode. So these are things you can do.
And that's one thing that women do well that guys don't, which is gather. Other than to watch a game or something like that, which we're not talking when we do that. The whole point of, in during a football game, it's taboo to be talking. Like, you don't talk during all the information you need right now is right on the screen. And so guys don't really do that so much, but we need to, man. We need to have these circles for support. What do you want to call them, support groups or just friend groups or whatever you want to call it? But it'd be great if you had people that understood. It'd be great if you had people that can, shortcut the conversation and have somebody to vent to and have somebody to connect with, because it can be a lonely, lonely place, man.
Yeah, and if you're not talking to guys, then you feel alone, you feel isolated, you feel like you're the only one going through this, and nobody knows your pain, and until you get out there and open up and reach out. And so that's why we're doing this episode, to give you a little bit of heads up. Like, there's, since 50%, 51, 52% of divorces, so you're half, 50% likely, 1 out of 2 chance of getting a divorce or going through a divorce. Maybe make a plan and have some sort of outlet, some sort of go bag or emergency plan so that you know where you're going, what to grab, who to talk to, so that you have some sort of plan so that you're not just out there by yourself, like, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go. And even if you end up that way, don't just go in. We're all going to take that time. We're guys. We're going to go in the cave. We're going to get low. We're going to go dark for a while. But when you come up for fresh air, when you start to see the light again, get out, go find some guys. And I mean, if you need to find therapists, if you need to find a pastor or somebody to talk to, but talk to somebody. Find somebody to talk to so you can vent some of that stress out there. And for like we always talk about, number one, you can find out you're not alone. Number two, you can find out it will get better, that this too will pass. And three, that this will help you expedite that healing process and get you out of those dark places a little bit quicker. Because when we try to do it on our own, like we usually always initially do, we just make it longer and harder.
And those statistics that you talked about, a lot of those that percentage is the repeat offenders. So if you've already been divorced, you're more likely even to get a divorce. The more divorces you've had, even the more likely you are. And so some of that, that's why we even talk about going into it. Even in our book, we talked about how do you go into that whole thing, and to your point of being prepared. Being prepared starts off while you're happily married. And when I say that, I'm talking about having a social circle, a friend circle. And I would recommend having a friend circle that's outside of you and your wife. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about secrets. I'm talking about have a guy circle, whether it's golf buddies, bowling buddies, arching or hunting buddies, fishing buddies, a men's group. We roll with B-men, here in town. I mean, having a circle of guys that will, if something is going bad, they won't hear anything from her. Yeah. Shout out again to our golfing buddy. She was telling us about she had a friend circle, and they used to vacation a lot together, kids and all that kind of stuff. And she said one of those particular trips, two of the couples, the ladies anyway, went to their husbands and said, this is going to be the last year that we have a vacation with them. And, there's a big shock of why. And it was because, well, they could tell that the wife was done. Yeah. Even though the wife didn't say anything, even though the husband had no idea, they could just tell that she was done. And sure enough, they divorced, and then he ended up dying by himself. The ex-wife found him 3 days after he had passed away in his apartment. Yeah. And so these kind of things are, from a guy perspective, you absolutely need to have that, when you talk about that plan, have that circle of influence, that sphere of support, even while you're happily married, so that you can contribute that and also have a circle of people that you can go to on your own.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a circle of friends, if you don't have a circle of guys, then most likely you probably will end up in a divorce because you don't have these outlets, you don't have the support, you don't have other people to kind of be part of that tribe and that group. Plus, I mean, we have to accept it, gentlemen. When it comes, there are a lot of things we are great at. We are physically stronger. We do a lot of the more dangerous jobs. We do all these things. We make the money. We want to provide. But when it comes to emotional things like divorce and heartbreak and ending relationships, we suck at it. So we just need to know that's our weakness and have a plan. Because it's not about what are you weak on. It's what are you going to do about it? How do you curtail your weakness, or what do you how do you I don't remember what that word, but I was thinking about something. But
acquiesce? No,
no, but you don't want to acquiesce to your weaknesses.
Who's trying to use the word?
Yeah. How do you? What do you do to overcome your weaknesses? That's what I was like. Overcome weaknesses. Yeah. There's got to be a plan. We're human beings. We have our strengths and weaknesses, and we need to have a plan to overcome those weaknesses so that we can stay strong and be strong and go stronger. And that's where having an outside group of friends and people and tribe there, because if you don't have it, it's just the two of y'all. You're going to drive each other crazy. Plus, if something happens, if you are having problems, then you have no outlet to discuss or support to look towards.
And sometimes you just need guys to bounce stuff off of. Sometimes you can be going through stuff relationally where you just need, just.
Is it just me, or
dude? Am
I losing it?
I'll be transparent, man. Shoot, just yesterday, man. First thing, as soon as I got the car, the first thing I was like, I need a therapy session during this golf round, man. And here's what I need you to do. I need from you to keep me from running. Yeah. And so but at the same time, to be able to talk about stuff and to vent stuff and to do it from a guy perspective where you don't necessarily have to watch your words and what's going to hurt somebody's feelings and all that kind of stuff. But so to be able to have that support system where even if it's just one other guy that you spend shoulder to shoulder time with, we're like, look, man, in the relationship, I'm not gossiping. I mean, it's not about the gossip. It's about here's what I'm going through. And so much so that, like I said, even in my case, I'm like, I need you to keep me from running. Like I need you to almost hold me accountable, but I need you to push me back off the shoulder, back onto the road.
Well, and that's part of why you need that group of guys, because just venting that, just saying what you're feeling and just saying it out loud to somebody who's not going to freak out about it makes all the difference, because then you actually hear it. And I mean, and that's what happens a lot of these times when these guys do these out of bounds or outward bound things where they're, firewalking and doing the tribal stuff. They're saying all the crazy things they thought to basically get it out of their head. And so if you're just isolated by yourself and all those things are just churning in your head, it's not going to get better. You need to have somebody that you can vent to and say all those crazy things like, I thought about putting a bag over her head or chopping her head off, what all the things. You got to vent that out. You don't want to keep that in your head. You got to let that thought out and set it free.
Yeah.
Speaking of set it free, we're going to set y'all free for a nice little break. Mad Men of Masculinity on KLDC, 1220 a.m. in the Mile High City. We'll be right back. Was that the right time? I did that right?
That was about a minute and a half early. We still good. Actually, no, it might not have been because I didn't start the timer right away. That was probably actually like right on time. Oh, you're going by the 26 minutes on there. Oh, yeah. I got you. That makes sense. But then you got to do math. Then it's like, all right.
Math.
Yeah.
That's right. I think we went a little over. No, we didn't. We'll go over on one of these, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will.
We're going to go over.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
Ooh, wiggle.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Can I drop it like it's hot?
Drop it like it's hot.
Can I twerk on the radio? Is that FCC okay? Ew, put that thing away. Don't nobody want to see that.
You know you want to see his twerk. Don't lie.
I can drop it like it's hot, man. Don't give me no,
You can drop stuff. I don't know if you can pick it back up again.
I'm going to drop it like it's hot, but it's going to stay down there until it cools off. I can't pick it up once it's hot down there like that. I ain't picking up no hot stuff. I'm done with that.
We drop it and let it go.
Yep. Mad Men of Masculinity back. Yes, we're back again. KLDC, 1220 a.m. in the Mile High City. On the interwebs, everywhere, Facebook, YouTube, all that podcast,
Spotify,
Buzzsprout, all that kind of stuff, man. Everywhere.
Yes.
Talking about divorce and the impacts of that on men.
The negative impacts of that on men. I mean, like, I just did a little bit, just a quick Google search. It was so fast, and it popped right up.
What did you search?
It was just the effects of divorce on men,
mm-hmm.
or divorce effects on men. And it's like, numerous studies have shown that men have higher risk of both mental and physical health problems following a divorce. These include greatly increased rates of cardiovascular disease, hypertension, depression, suicide, substance abuse, and even cancer. I mean, if that's not enough for you to go, maybe I should take a moment.
Yeah.
Maybe I should talk to somebody. But if that's not enough for you, just because I know how we guys are, like, if it's about me, I don't care. It's got to be about somebody else. So how about with the kids?
Ooh.
While men may still retain visitation rights or even custody of their children after divorce, they often struggle with the change in family dynamics and new living arrangements for themselves, their children, and their former spouses.
Okay, reality check here. I'm gonna tell you what can happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I can tell you what can happen. Again, that narrative is a trip, boy. I'm telling you, that narrative is a mug. And so a lot of times, the story that gets told about dad is not from dad's perspective. And I believe there's less deadbeat dads than there are scorned moms. Who decided that they wanted to make sure the kids know that it wasn't their fault and it was dad's fault, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of moms out there that tell kids stuff that they shouldn't tell them. And therefore, what can happen, not saying it always does, I'm 1 for 2 in that category. But what can happen is you can absolutely end up with a broken relationship with your kids where, had they known the full story, especially way back when it happened, their opinion might be different, but their opinion of you might be that you're basically a monster. And all the stuff that you did or didn't do that contributed to all the bad stuff that happened in their life, and everything good came from mom and everything bad came from you. I mean, and again, that leads to more isolation. That leads to, and at the same time, everybody can be after your check.
Yeah.
That don't mean, we don't need you, but I do need that check every month, and I do need some benefit insurance cards, and I do need, but we don't need you. We don't want nothing to do with you. You're not invited nowhere. We don't want your opinion. We don't want you showing up at school, or I don't need you. We don't need you. We can do it all by ourselves. Really? I ain't seen never one of the checks come back. And every year around the first, you ask for that new insurance card. And so, I mean, these are the things that can happen, but especially in the area of kids. And I'm just being real. I'm just being honest, right? I mean, this is not only my personal experience, but if you ask any guy that's been through divorce, I mean, you can probably almost guarantee that you're going to hear a lot of these same stories where don't nobody want me or anything to do with me, but everybody want my check. And at the same time, I'm the bad guy. I'm the one that caused the family to fall apart, which I personally think, I think in the area of personal responsibility, I like to take ownership. And so I wrote my first book taking ownership of all of my junk that was in my trunk. So I'm not even against all of that and taking ownership in my stuff. But at the same time, there's two people in every marriage. And, it'd be really hard to not have anything that's ownership on both sides of that whole equation.
Yeah. And this is why we say so much that you guys need to advocate for yourselves and for both parents. And I know you ladies are listening as well. What you do when you do that, when you make the kids choose sides, or you talk bad about dad, or dad, you talk bad about mom, that's mentally traumatizing. I mean, that's trauma. That's basically abuse, is mental abuse to your kids, because you're both their parents. They both love you. And when you do that, they have this internal battle of, well, I feel like I need to choose sides, but I still love dad and I still love mom, but they're not getting along. So that's why making your kids your priority, even if you can't make it work together, making them a priority, becoming good co-parents, the best co-parents you can, is the best way, like the best path you can go down, because it keeps you focused on what's important and you don't fall into that drama and backstabbing and backbiting, talking and all that stuff. And it's much healthier for the children, because you're not making them choose or making them feel like they have to choose one way or the other. And a lot of kids nowadays, because that's what we went through, a lot of us adults now went through those things and had to choose, or felt like we had to choose. Now we're all in therapy or have trauma because we're like, well, it wasn't bad enough that they divorced, and now my world's upside down. Now they're talking bad about each other, but I love both of them, and I don't know who to choose and how this works. So let's do our best to avoid even going down that path, because it doesn't end well for anybody.
Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of dads that aren't absentee. They're basically excommunicated. I mean, there's a lot of dads that aren't there, not because they don't want to be there, but because they're either not, in the loop. They're not told. They're not informed. They're not even included in it. As a matter of fact, some of that is they're not there because, again, because the narrative can't be that there's anything good that comes from him. I've been told by a lady at the Rebel County Court that she ain't never seen her father do something that I did in terms of one set of my kids, my oldest two kids. I mean, and so, but that narrative they would have never heard or anything like that. And so, and so these are the kind of things, though, guys, that you can experience. And this leads to that stress. This leads to that depression. This leads to that hopelessness and misery. I remember thinking, man, everybody would be better off if I wasn't here. I mean, these are just real thoughts, man. And this is how you end up with a lot of the situation and circumstances a lot of men can find themselves in. And so, these are things that got to be considered. These are things that I don't want to say expect in terms of being pessimistic, but expect because it's very, very common, a common narrative in that whole thing. And again, 8 or 9 times out of 10, it's the wife actually ending the relationship and filing for divorce and all these other kind of things. And so, and our golf partner, Corky, 30 years married, and all of her friends and experience, she said the exact same thing. She goes, "Oh yeah," he goes, "Men have no clue. Women know way before the men do." And so, this is something that if you ask any number of people, you'll find that, this is pretty much par for the course.
Yeah. And I mean, just even looking at some of the statistics, and this is why we push so hard for you guys to have a group of guys or a group of friends, something outside the marriage. In most marriages, statistics say 60% of men look at their wives as their primary social contact, their primary social support. So if she's your only social support, she's your only social person you interact with. When you get divorced, that's it. You got nobody, and then now you're trying to find some people to talk to or hang out with, and you end up being the poor lonely guy at the bar crying in his drink because you don't have somebody you can reach out to. Plus, if you had people to reach out to, maybe she wouldn't have filed for divorce because she feels overwhelmed by, well, I've got to take care of all of his needs and all of my needs because he doesn't have any friends or anything else. Having a tribe, having friends, having a source, and also, guys, as I keep saying, having a men's group so that you can rebuild your masculinity, you can build up that testosterone, so you can be the man that she married. Because when you, as a couple, stay together most of the time, and you don't go out and have your girl and guys nights and those outlets, you start to emulate each other. So the guys become more feminine, the women become more masculine. You start to fight more. You lose that polarity of sexual attraction. So you have to have these outlets. And I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. We say that it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a village to raise a couple, or to have a couple, or to make a healthy couple.
Yeah, you got to have that. You got to have that circle, man. And again, for some, that circle, and I think it should be a group of people. You also need, a good wingman or two. You kind of do. I mean, and so unfortunately, a lot of us try to go at it alone. A lot of us, go at life alone, and a lot of us, end up being alone, feeling alone, and dying alone. I mean, it's a very common thing for guys to be found after they've been gone for a day or two, kind of thing. And so, how long would it take somebody to realize that they haven't heard from you? Like if you were laying on your floor at home, how long would it take before somebody said, "Hey, something's wrong. We need to go knock on the door"?
I've had that thought. I've actually, in some of my deepest, darkest, depressed moments, I was like, wonder how long it would be before somebody actually checked. Would it be the landlord when they're looking for the rent check? Would it be work? And when they're trying to find why I didn't come to work, who would be the first one to actually show up?
So who do you think? So who do you think now?
Well, I know it would be you.
You right about that. You ain't said I was going to across the table and smack the taste out your mouth. You're absolutely right about that. Boy, I was going to smack that body armor.
This is the kind of friendship.
Masculinity. Oh, I was going to, man, if you ain't say that, I was about to, you got right about that.
This is the kind of friendship you need. You need that friend that don't care. He's going to, I'll tell you what, when I broke my foot and I was convalescing at home and working from home, and I had almost 10 other people say, I'll show up, and what do you need? And I'll come help you with this, and I'll do this. And then one of them returned my call or came and showed up. But this dude showed up twice with In-N-Out and some other food. And I didn't even ask him to come over. He just showed up. So, I mean, you got to have friends. You got to have people that got your back, that, are your wingmen, are your boys, that your 3 a.m. friends, because we can't do it alone. And I know all of us guys, and you just have that twitch like we all have when we hear that. It's like, yeah, I can. That's what I've been told my whole life. I do it my own. Suck it up. Be a man. It's just a lie. It's a lie we've been fed. It's like all the makeup lies that the ladies get. We talk about that a lot. We had a whole conversation about that this weekend at dinner. It was just hilarious. But I digress.
It's funny because more often than not, guys, the woman you divorced is not the woman you married. Totally different human being, totally different vibe, totally different energy, totally different personality. And ironically, I'm going to go ahead and say that probably the man you married is the same man you divorced. He was probably that way when you met him, ladies. You probably just overlooked a whole lot of red flags and you thought some stuff would go away and all those kinds of things. And so, generally speaking, a man just becomes more of who he is, or you realize who he is at the end.
Or you find out that all that fixing you thought you were going to do turned out it didn't work because, number one, you didn't tell him you were trying to fix him. Yeah. And then you didn't include him in the process. So he's like, well, why would I want to do any of that?
I talked to a lot of couples that are in relationship crisis. And a lot of them knew that he had that addiction or he had that habit when they met. And they knew that he had that habit, but somehow, to your point, either thought it was going to go away or thought that they could fix him and all those kinds of things. But back to guys, again, the person you married, that sweet, gentle, beautiful, radiant being, the soft, gentle summer breeze makes you feel fine blowing through the jasmines of your mind.
Think of the opposite of that.
you talk about Cruella DeVille when you up there. I'm telling you, boy, you like, whoa. I mean, she walking that door, man. It's
well,
like,
they don't say that, like, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Well, if she decides it's done, then all of that sweetness, just flip it on his head, because you're going to get the opposite of that. And it's going to, and I mean, and honestly, that's where a lot of the vengefulness and the vendettas and all the backbiting and all that stuff comes from. It's like they just want to be right, or they're just so upset that they can't believe it's ending, or whatever. And I get it. It's very emotional. It's hard to go, this is just what it is. It's for the best. Let's make this as amicable as possible. No, we're gonna get the claws out and go crazy.
And I'm gonna come back to this in the end, but we're not painting anybody as the bad guy or the bad gender, none of that kind of stuff. Divorce is the enemy. Divorce is the enemy. Divorce is the fire that you try to spray the water on to put the fire out. That is the enemy. The enemy is not a person. And if anything, it's both your responsibility to put logs in that fire. But maybe more often than not, we're looking for fireworks in that campfire. We're looking for the boom and not the heat and the radiance.
Well, and just look at that analogy. I mean, how fast and how quick. I mean, yeah, fireworks are amazing. They're over in a second. Yeah. And so you want to have that campfire, that oven, that boiler mentality. You want to have the slow burn and keep it going for long term. Because you can go fast alone, but if you want to go far, you go together.
Speaking of was over in a second, was going to be over in a few seconds, or maybe 180 seconds.
Talk about what it's break. Oh, it's time for us to take a break.
Sure enough.
Mad Men of Masculinity. KLDC, 12:20 a.m. in the Mile High City. We'll be right back. Yeah, we have to talk about at least on the next one, drop something about health, because like men are much more likely to visit the doctor when they're sick for regular preventative checkups when they're married. Yeah. But when we're not, we're just like, I'll just take some Advil.
I know my arm hanging off. I'll rub some dirt on it. Is this the fourth segment? I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Except number Fizzo for Shizzo.
Oh. Well, all right.
You look bored. Are we not entertaining? Are you not entertained?
Word.
Oh, awesome. We got one of the 7. Great.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's winning. I guess that's winning.
That is winning. We got one of them. Yeah. We got one of them. We should be proud of that.
Hey, I'm always proud when I get at least one.
Boom.
If I can get some. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Are we ready?
Yeah, that's right. We back.
We ready.
Yeah,
you ain't ready, but we ready.
We ready.
You ain't ready for this.
We gonna,
you ain't ready for this jelly.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming in for our final approach here at Crawford Studios.
You haven't done this in a while. I bet you missed it.
I know I have missed that. This is the initial descent.
We're
not quite lined up on the road. This is the initial descent.
We're just circling the city.
Yeah, this is where you have 40,000, 36,000, and you feel that little, we're going down. We're almost there. We're going to be there shortly. Yay, Grandma's going to be there.
With cookies.
And if it's Colorado, some special brownies.
Okay. I'm sorry. No, I didn't say that one.
Hey, we're talking about, unfortunately, divorce and
the harsh effects of divorce on men.
You talked about a second ago, man. And by the way, super producer Nick Nicole said that we have at least one of the 7 layers of her brain kind of spinning.
Which just means we're doing well.
That's pretty impressive. We'll take it.
We've activated one layer for a many layer brain.
We'll take it.
All that spaghetti.
We'll take it. We will absolutely take it. So you talked about one kind of aspect in terms of health.
Well, I mean, just as men in general, we know who we are, and we're the tough guys. But when you're married, when you're in a relationship, you're like 90% more likely to actually go to the doctor when you're sick, or to go to regular checkups, or to go get physicals, or to do those things. And then when you're not divorced, you think, well, I will just suck this up and take some Advil and drink a beer. Well, how's that working for you? I mean, that's why the rates of heart disease and heart attacks, strokes, and all these other health-related issues that could be are preventable are much higher in men who are divorced or single, or in their later years without a partner.
True story. After my first experience, I had no idea that my blood pressure was through the roof. I just thought that
you just thought that vein was normal.
I thought that I was supposed to feel that tingling feeling, and sometimes I see sparkly.
Why is my arm so?
I had no idea, man. And then I don't know what, I don't know. I don't remember if it was a physical or maybe, yeah, I think I finally did a physical. And my doctor was like, yeah, okay,
Yo,
everything
he's
will be
like,
triple digits. Like, we need to, I mean, it was one of them kind of things of like, all right, we need to monitor you. Like they were considering, shipping me straight to the hospital. I mean, it was that high. But I just thought it was normal because that's, the stress just became normal, man. That elevated sense of feeling, that sensation became normal. And so, and so, yeah, from a guy perspective, there wasn't a prompting to go to the doctor. Like I didn't, there was nobody that was checking on me or I was checking on them to ask any of that kind of stuff.
You look a little gray. You look a little peaked. Why don't you go see somebody?
Yeah, and there was none of that. So I could definitely see that in terms of married guys, which even to that point, one of the last B men meeting that we were in, there was one of the guys in there who said that he had like not had a physical at any time. I don't know about ever, but anytime recently. And I was like, dude, you need to go get a physical like now. Yeah. I mean, if you have health insurance, which most of us do, they cover one a year, and you need to go get a physical. I mean, because there's so many things that you may not know that could be easy things to fix and all that kind of stuff, especially guys just all of a sudden just tapping out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll even speak from my experience. I used to, every time I would go into physical, especially in my 20s and early 30s, where they're like, do you run marathons? Your blood pressure is so low. Well, spend a bunch of years on your own, medicating with beer and cigarettes and, whatever else you're using to numb out or whatever. And then you go back and they go, oh, well, it's it's not bad. You're right on the cusp. You're right on the cusp of high blood pressure and issues. And so, these things will sneak up on you no matter how good a health you think you are as you get older. I mean, if you're working a job, if you're out in the world, but you're not as active as you used to be, if you're not doing all those things, I mean, these things will sneak up on you. I know I used to lie to myself, be like, I'm perfectly healthy. I'll be healthy for the rest of my life. I'm going to live 120. No. Lying to myself. Lies all day.
Yeah. And these and there's a big difference between filling your time and space with just random
entertainment,
random people.
Say entertainment. That's PC.
You belong to the streets. There's
these entertaining spinners.
That's completely different. That's a completely different concept than actually having somebody that cares about you, that is watching you, that sees you over the time, that knows what's normal for you and what's not, and knows when something is weird. If I showed up to in front of any number of people high as a kite on something, there'd be a lot of people that know that ain't.
Right. You having fun? What you doing?
Right, and somebody would surely ask me some questions, and I would be okay with that. But you got to have people that are stable, that's in your life, because the health aspect of it is huge.
Well, I mean, you talk about the for the streets ladies. I mean, they're fun. That's candy. There's no substance. It's just it's gonna rot your teeth and bank account and probably your soul.
Yeah, that's all. That's all.
Be careful.
And frosting just makes cavities.
Yeah, it's fun. It's nice. You got to have your cake occasionally. However, we need some salads. We need some steak and potatoes. We need some healthy food.
But you can't get to that point where you medicate loneliness with just the next random warm body. You can medicate. There's a lot of people that medicate loneliness with online dating, where they just want a dinner with somebody. I've been there, done that, where I'm out on this date with somebody, and it was clear that she had no intentions of anything other than getting a free meal. Yep. And then that's when I started going to Starbucks. You might get a free latte, but that's about all you can get other than that boy. And I'm gonna get points anyway. But so I mean, there's a huge difference in that. And so medicating the loneliness with random people is totally different than having a support circle, a social group around you.
But on that note as well, sometimes we need crutches. When you're going through it, when you're in the throes of it, it's much better to allow yourself to use that crutch for a short time. Like if you just, and we see it, like we have friends that are in the work, they know what to do, but they still will fall off the wagon sometimes because they're in the midst of it. And so it's if you fall off the wagon, that's okay. Don't make it worse. Don't beat yourself up even more. Just know that you needed that crutch for that time. Sometimes you need to have that extra drink. Sometimes you need to get online, whatever the thing is. But then when you catch yourself and you realize, oh, I did that thing, that's when you call your boys. That's when you get to the men's group. That's when you get back to the support system so that you can go, yeah, I did it, but don't beat yourself up. Just accept that happened and move on. Because a lot of times we fall off the wagon and then make it 10 times worse by hiding it, shaming it, and making ourselves feel, even worse than we already do.
Now, there are some slippery slopes that I would suggest you not go down. I would suggest you, that a whole lot of people say, man, I just took one hit and that was it. And I was hooked for the rest of my life on this or that or whatever it is. Or, so there's some slippery slopes that, hindsight, person with wisdom, especially somebody that's been there, would say, you might want to steer clear away from that. I mean, go find you a nice cigar and go stand out on the patio and,
Yeah, let me clarify that. If this is something that you use that you can control, but don't be trying new things to numb the pain, or don't be trying new things. Like if it's beer or online something or something you've had experience with that like I don't really want to do that, but it's not as bad as this other thing. Like, let's not add new things into your crisis arena.
And I got to the point where I had to self-check on, am I medicating something right now? I mean, there's some people that can have a beer or have a drink or even a few, and it's not a life ender for them. It's not a terminal experience. There are some people that one beer, one glass of wine, one whatever, and they're gone. And so I kind of got to the point where whatever I'm doing in the moment, like, what is this doing for me? If it's medicating something, then maybe I need to deal with the pain and not seeking the medication. If I'm doing something to mitigate loneliness, then I'm acquiescing control over my life, over my pain, to a medication that's gonna probably lead me somewhere where I don't necessarily want to be, maybe. And so in my case, I literally had to get to that point, man. So what's our summary from this, man? What do you think, man? What's our takeaway?
I think, guys, you have to realize dealing with heartbreak is not one of our strengths. So have a plan, have some life insurance, have your people around you. Make sure, they say the best time to have marriage counseling is before you get married. Best time to have friends in a group and a tribe is before any of those things, but especially while you're married and before you get divorced. So just have a plan, have some idea, know that if you end up getting divorced, if she files, most likely it's going to be much harder on you because of your lack of preparedness. You don't have a social circle. Plus, you're going to get run through the court system, and make sure you're advocating for yourself and you have a support system. Otherwise, you're going to come out the other end looking like a shipwreck.
Yeah, to me, I say that plan is having a support system already in place before crisis hits. I think if you are absolutely, if you're married and you're going through crisis, I think you do whatever you can, spend everything you have to save that marriage. And even if it does end, that's less you got to fight over in the end. But do everything you can to do that. Fix any problems, address any issues. I mean, shoot, 6 out of 10 divorces involve somebody with a porn problem. I mean, if that's your struggle and that's the thing that's holding you back, holler at your boy. That's what I do. I mean, and to help address those things, that's what ended my marriages. And so whatever that thing is you need to do, but your support system, your life insurance is the life assurance. And that is your support system, your social network, your social circle. And nowhere in this do we mean, we're speaking from a man's perspective and also to men. So women are not the issue. Women are not the problem. We're not misogynistic, none of that kind of stuff. We're speaking from a man's point of view that you probably don't hear. And so divorce is the problem, not a certain gender or not a certain person in the household. And this is why I love the fact that we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah, and to you ladies who may have just dropped in on this and heard us saying that, it's not all green grasses and gables for you either after divorce. So go watch our last episode and you'll hear us talk about that. But for the rest of you, go on YouTube, like and subscribe. Make sure you catch up on all our past episodes. You can get us on Spotify. And every Saturday at 8 a.m., which you're probably listening to right now, or Wednesday at 6 p.m., right here on KLDC, 1220 a.m. in the Mile High City. We are the Madmen of Masculinity. We love you.
And you're not alone. There are many people that are going through the same thing, have been through the same thing. Reach out, connect, all those kinds of things. There are a lot of people that can say, yeah, me too. And it's very powerful when you can be in a room or in a space or in a phone conversation where somebody can say, yep, been there, done that. and to give you perspective from the other side, of the experience. And so,
yeah. And speaking of not being alone, we're going to have our man Jude, who runs a podcast of advocates, on next week. So tune in next week so you can check out the expert on the subject.
Not a coalition.
It's a coalition.
Coalition, not a coagulation.
Coalition of advocates. We're not coagulating your man juice. It's done with.
Hey,
no more
body armor, nectar of masculinity.
And on that note, we love y'all.
Madmen out.
Peace.